Michael Tarancic. I'm managing partner of the Chicago office of Fragan and Bell Reyes Bernson Rowley, working very closely with Anna. Our firm is the largest global corporate immigration firm in the world, and we really do have specialized in the ability of helping our clients move individuals from from country to country, regardless of where they're coming from and where they're going to. So really a global immigration firm working very closely with the EU and obviously Poland and Hungary.
My name is Michael Gourmet. I'm managing the Chicago office of Norman G. Jensen Incorporated, which is a large customs broker and international trade forwarding company. So we are moving the goods through the country.
Good morning. My name is Laura Spangola. I'm the president of Trade Resources, a 27-year-old market development firm here in Chicago, specializing in market research, training programs, and promotions for trade and investment development. We have conducted projects in both Hungary and Poland, and a few of our clients have very deep involvement in both markets. Thank you.
Miklós Martin, Kovács Investment and Trade Commissioner, based in Chicago, covering 15 states of the U.S. Our network has 55 offices globally, and obviously we are trying to generate as much business as possible.
Thank you to everyone. We really appreciate that. I thought that we would start this panel from a U.S. perspective and find out more from Jim Feltman. What is the Schaumburg Business Association doing in terms of attracting business to the state of Illinois? What kind of strategies you are employing? What are the challenges that you're seeing?
Oh, fantastic. The Schaumburg Business Association is our sister organization. About 8 months ago, it was talked about amongst our board members on how do we take what the Schaumburg Business Association does to a much, much higher level, and started working out the details of a public-private partnership with the village of Schaumburg to take the chamber to a much more economic development related area. So that's when I came along. I worked in operations and management consulting and manufacturing for the last 15 to 20 years to help put this startup together. And really what we do is we're the total resource for a company that wants to come to the U.S. and in particular Schaumburg, Illinois. We put together every possible resource that a company could need. I'll give some examples. For one, Motorola was mentioned a few times. Motorola's U.S. headquarters, world headquarters is...
A big part of this is the quality of the homework that you conduct. And in saying that, I suggest that you don't overlook really sitting down, trying to be honest with your objectives for the market in terms of the time frame that you anticipate reaching your goals. And in doing that, really construct about each market what you know about the governments, about the demographics, about the cultures that you'll be dealing with, about the legal framework. And on the economic side, we always look at the GDP growth, which we've seen today already. We look at the GDP, or rather the per capita income, which is about 18,800, I think, in Poland, and 19,000 right now in Hungary. We look at literacy rate, but in these two markets, I mean, they're exceptional with respect to the training and the skill levels of the populace. And maybe a newer measure that we look at is cell phone usage and internet subscriptions. And in both countries, the rate is about 2/3 of the population are connected to the internet. So this is very favorable in terms of developing market strategies going forward. In addition to that, it depends upon the kind of industry or company that you represent. For example, Some companies may begin by exporting and importing. Others might completely leapfrog over that and just decide, we're committed to these markets. We think there are opportunities there. We're going to invest. We're going to open a sales office. Maybe not a production facility, but in our experience, we work with the home appliance industry and, for example, Whirlpool. Whirlpool has significant investments in both of these markets. They've invested very heavily in Wrocław, in Warsaw, and if you look at how they market, the products are pretty essentially the same. They're producing stoves, they're producing cooktops and washing machines. And one might think, well, is the production that different? The localization is not that different with respect to the production, but it is very different with respect to the way they market. And so the manner of presentation is something that's very successful in that locale, but it probably wouldn't fly here at all. So these are examples of companies that really invest or have sales offices in both countries. On the other hand, we work with the housewares industry, everyday housewares goods like cookware, bakeware, household electrics, and they're very different. These companies are $1 to $100 million in sales, and when they initiate penetration of a market, they're thinking about hiring an agent or a distributor, and because they are really trying to get direct to the consumer market, to retail. So again, they're really two completely different ways of thinking about it. But the overall, and maybe you've heard it many times, the overall kind of clincher is if you conduct your appropriate homework to start out. So I'd say give it an 18-month time frame at least for starters.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Miklos, since we're kind of running out of time and we'd like to have some time for Q&A as well, can you tell us about what Hungary is doing right now to attract businesses to its borders?
Well, just like every other country in the region, obviously you understand that during the last 20 years, these countries became highly developed market economies as far as business is concerned. Politically, there could be this and that and the other. Of course, those are democracies, and the changes are going on with the election cycles. But business-wise, it's a united market run by the same rules and regulations. And I think each and every country is providing incentives for both the investors and indirect incentives for people who would like to do trade in those countries. I'd like to point out one major thing, and it's going to be brief, I promise. This is one of my favorite examples, how business is being conducted recently and how international a business really is. There is a side mirror and a rear view mirror manufacturing company in the United States. That's a very complex process, so it's a very high-tech company. So this company is operating internationally in many countries, including Hungary. So they are manufacturing their products there. They're selling to markets in Germany, France, UK, wherever. That company is being acquired by an Indian company. So now it's an Indian company, but they are going to have new clients from Germany, automotive companies, major automotive companies. So they would like to expand their activities. So the decision is based on the evaluation of a gentleman who is based in Germany. But the American company is run by a gentleman who happens to be Polish by origin, and that gentleman spent a couple of years in Hungary running that operation. So the decision which is being made in Korea, because the board of that Indian company is having the meeting there, the board meeting there. And this gentleman from Detroit, who knows Hungary, of course, has a major say about that. At the end, they decided on building another factory in Hungary. I'm just telling this example because you asked what these economies provide for businesses. We provide a very high level of sensitivity to these details because conducting international business is, as we all know, is a very sensitive issue. We really have to be sensitive to the cultural changes, but the history is also important, the corporate history, because if it's an American company but it's owned by an Indian company right now, it's very important. And we are being very sensitive. I'm not talking about the obvious things, that regulation, labor regulations, which are more flexible than, let's say, in France and Germany. So those kind of issues could be easily researched. But this approach is very important, the human element, and I think it's just becoming more and more important because the staff is very international globally, and we have, of course, the numbers and the matrices and the analysis and the business plans, but people do business, keep doing business, and I think for us that's an extremely important factor.